The one thing teams can't do against the Celtics, but they got no choice. Plus, who's the biggest threat to the Celtics? That and more questions in our mailbag today, right now, on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Being down, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamped. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining Jace, how it started, raising business, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I got you covered every Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts on the weekend, like this Friday when they play against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That should be a fun one. Very curious to see how the addition of DeAndre Hunter is deployed against the Celtics, so stick around for that. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. This way, you'll get the podcast dropped directly to your favorite podcasting app. You can also watch the show on YouTube, get into the comment section, have some fun there. If you're new to the show, I am John Karalis. I am covering the Celtics as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years. I've written a couple of books about them, so I know plenty about this team. So hopefully you enjoy my analysis. Later on, we're going to get to some mailbag questions in the second and third segment. The biggest threat, how this team compares to the mid-'80s, depending on how things go. Their future, Jaylen Brown versus Klay Thompson, an interesting kind of question. But first, I want to kind of finish up the discussion on the New York Knicks, which when I said at the beginning, the one thing teams can't do against the Celtics, but they've got no choice. When you play a non-shooter against the Celtics, you can forget it. And this is why the DeAndre Hunter thing is going to be interesting. And I'm curious to see how the Cavs deploy that that lineup. What do they do against the Celtics to properly use DeAndre Hunter? My question was always, well, who do you bench? And, where do you use them? I think the answer is ultimately going to be down the stretch. You're probably going to bench Jared Allen and play DeAndre Hunter in his place is probably the best place to go with Hunter, because you need shooting on the floor. When the Celtics see a non-shooter, forget it. I was watching the video, and I'll have a bigger breakdown on Boston Sports Journal, but the way the Celtics attack the Knicks on both ends of the floor. So offensively, they went after Karl Anthony Towns pretty hard, but defensively, they kind of went after Josh Hart. And when he was off the floor, Precious Achiuwa, they took non-shooters and they put Porzingis. The first quarter Porzingis was almost exclusively on Josh Hart, which when he subbed out, you put Cornette on Hart, you put Horford on either on Karl Anthony Towns, or you had Jayson Tatum on Karl Anthony Towns. Different players, the way the Celtics are built, you can have somebody like Tatum, you can have somebody like Drew Holiday, you can have anybody else kind of guarding Karl Anthony Towns, and you put Porzingis on the non-shooter, and that changes the entire offense for the Knicks. They cannot do the things that they're trying to do. You saw Jalen Brunson trying to get to the rim and not really succeeding. Every time he turned a corner, he had Porzingis kind of parked in the middle of the lane, helping. And so he had to settle for mid-range jumpers. And if the jumpers aren't falling, then forget it. That's how the Celtics built a 19-point lead. That's how the Celtics built a lead as high as 27. The way they defend when you have a non-shooter on the floor is that allows the Celtics to absolutely maximize their defensive weaponry and why they can go double big and not worry about it, because you put one of the bigs on the non-shooter, one of the non-shooters that are out there, and that should that allows the big Porzingis, Al Horford, whomever, to kind of roam and play a free safety. And it was the way that Robert Williams was used a lot when he was here, just able to come on over and challenge shots and block shots. And when Porzingis had that block on Hart, and then the finish at the other end, the dunk at the other end, he came over, he was helping. The pass came down to Hart on the baseline, and that the placement of the pass still allowed Porzingis to come back and block the shot. There are downfalls to that. The rest of the defense has to be on point behind it. You cannot allow offensive rebounds on the non-shooter, which is going to be one of the toughest things when it comes to when you play off of Jared Allen when the Cavs come to town, or however you deploy the defense. You cannot lose when you roam over. You cannot lose that guy. So the downfall is you can't have cutters because Josh Hart cuts. You cannot give up offensive rebounds. And one of the keys to the Celtics, to breaking that Celtics defense, is defending the Celtics, making them miss, and playing fast off of their misses. The Celtics run, looking back at that third quarter, the Celtics giving up that run, I should say, in the third quarter, that was almost exclusively the Celtics missing shots, the Celtics settling for shots, the Knicks hitting a bunch of three-pointers. Karl-Anthony Towns hit three-pointers. Jalen Brunson started hitting three-pointers. When the Knicks made a run in the second quarter, Cam Payne was making three-pointers. It was all of the Knicks runs were based heavily on a surge of three-point shooting, the Celtics not making shots, the Celtics turning the ball over, settling for shots, not running good offense. It's all connected. So the Celtics defense is at its absolute peak best when another team throws a non-shooter on the floor. The Celtics can help off of that guy, and Porzingis, Al Horford, Luke Cornett can be super, super effective in helping and shutting down the rim. But the downfall, like I said, brings us into the mailbag. Who is the biggest threat to the Celtics? Is it Cleveland? Is it OKC? Is it a third team? I'm going to make a strong case for that third team when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. If they swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 points in the game or more, you score a huge deal the next day. It's very simple. When a player scores 50 or more in a game for the rest of the regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off, the next day from noon to midnight. So after the 50-point performance the next day, between noon and midnight, you can have people over, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, burgers from your favorite joint, get them delivered straight to your door. You can have that late night craving, just before midnight. You'll be like, hey, I'm still hungry. Get that order in on Dash Pass, get something delicious while saving. A lunch on the go. Hey, noon hits, boom, order your lunch. With Dash Pass, you can get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees, reduced service fees, plus you can save more with this offer, or fuel your next watch party. Maybe Tatum drops 50 against Toronto. The next watch party, boom, against Detroit. You can use this to get a discount and get ready for maybe another 50-point game. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When a player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off and order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50. That's NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders on participating merchants. Must have active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out our daily newsletter. It's at lockedondaily.com. Go there, click on the Locked On Celtics logo. Then you will have an email from me dropped right into your inbox. Celtics coverage, NBA coverage, and fantasy coverage from around the network. And it's a great way to keep up with the podcast. If you happen to miss a day, you can read the newsletter and get caught up. Excuse me. So that's go sign at lockedondaily.com. Click on that Locked On Celtics logo. Let's get into the mailbag. I got a bunch of mailbag questions. So I kind of wanted to get that thing about the Celtics defense, what makes it so elite, to lead into the first question here from Christopher. As we are now in the final third of the season, what team do you believe has the best chance to beat the Celtics in the playoffs and why? So I don't think the Celtics are going to lose. I think they are going to win. Obviously, OKC has a great chance at beating the Celtics. They are an elite team. The Cavs do have a good chance at beating the Celtics. I don't think they will. I think the Celtics will win that series, but the Cavs are the best team in the East record-wise, and that in the DeAndre Hunter thing is legitimately, makes me curious. I don't think it will change the result, but I am curious to see how it impacts things. He's a wing defender and he can hit three-pointers. So that helps their chances. But the biggest problem to me when we look at what do the Celtics do defensively, how have they been playing, who has the biggest antidote, and it's still the Indiana Pacers. It's still the Indiana Pacers to me. They are not as talented as the Cavs. They're not as talented as the Thunder. Obviously, they may lose before they even get there. But for a team that is, we talk about how the Celtics are uniquely built. The Pacers are uniquely built to give the Celtics problems where they face them the most. I don't think the Celtics could go double big against the Pacers. I don't know that Al Horford is going to be very playable against the Pacers. I don't know how they're going to deploy their defense against the Pacers. The Pacers have shooting everywhere. They play up and down. They play a fast pace. They play a frantic style. Will they be able to stop the Celtics defensively? No, but they don't care. If the Celtics are having a bad shooting night, they can go out and the Pacers can compete and give themselves a shot. Remember, last year in the playoffs, it was a sweep, yes, but it took an absolute miracle in the first game to get it to overtime. It took a mistake by Rick Carlisle. They could have called a timeout. They didn't. They made a mistake. The Celtics made the play. They took advantage, and who knows what would have happened. Maybe they would have won it in 5, but regardless, it took a miracle to get into overtime and win game 1. Games 3 and 4 were both 3-point games. The Pacers had their chances if they were not a bad fourth quarter team, because one of the downsides to their structure is they don't have a solid fourth quarter plan. But the Pacers have given the Celtics problems. So I think the Pacers can play that shooting variance game if the Celtics go a little cold. And again, one of the keys to the Celtics defense is hitting shots so they can come back and set their defense. If you're going to play double big, if you're going to try the Porzingis roaming type of thing, you got to make sure you have the right matchups. And if the Celtics are missing shots, the Pacers can get up and down the floor. Now you're cross-matched, and that's where things can fall apart. That's the reason why the Pacers give the Celtics so many problems. I still fear them more than everybody else. The Cavs, much more talented, but also much more predictable. We know what they're going to do. We know what they're trying to do. When the Celtics know what a team is trying to do, they can stop it, or they can give themselves a great chance at stopping it. Now, they're not going to stop it all the time, but when a team is somewhat predictable, the Celtics have a great chance at beating that team. When a team is unpredictable, when a team is just kind of random and all over the place. That hurts the Celtics. And so I, Christopher, say the Pacers are the team that I fear the most. And hopefully that 4-5 game will be a bad matchup for the Pacers and they can get eliminated in the first round, and that'll be done with it. I don't want, or maybe the Pacers will play the Cavs and the Cavs will knock them out. And that'll be the end of it. But that's the team that gives the Celtics the most problems. Gary asks, if the Celtics win back-to-back championships this year, I know it's a big if, where do you think this group stacks up against the 80s teams? 6 out of 8 Eastern Conference Finals appearances, last 3 years in the NBA Finals, an Eastern Conference Finals loss, Finals win, potential Finals win, something the 80s teams never did. Would this team need to win 3, or does the back-to-back get them on par with the Bird Group? So this is a tough question because I hold the Bird Group in the absolute highest regard. That team, like the 1986 Celtics, I still think are the best non-Olympic team ever assembled. I would take the 86 Celtics against the 96 Bulls. I would take the Celtics against any of the Spurs teams. I would take that team against anybody. And maybe wouldn't go well. I don't know. But I would say that Celtics team, that 86 team, has everything. And give them enough time to play that era's style, that 86 Celtics team could do well in today's era. You'd have McHale. He could step out and shoot. People forget McHale at the end of his career was stepping out to shoot. Parrish wasn't stepping out to shoot, but he could hit the elbow jumpers. He could get into the short roll and hit jumpers and be a threat. Bird was a deadly three-point shooter in an era where the three-point shot wasn't emphasized. He would have been the Celtics' all-time leading scorer if he had played in today's era. Also, if he had played in today's era, he would have been out of college 3 years earlier and not, coming into the NBA as a 22-year-old or something. 22, I think he was. So I always keep that in mind when you talk about, hey, Tatum is the youngest guy to do this. Like, yes, and it's a very impressive. Larry Bird went to school for 4 years, and like that was 3 or 4. Regardless, he came out when he was 22, and that was, it would have been different today. So I don't know if I personally can get there. If this Celtics team wins back-to-back, I still don't know if I can get there with them. However, you start breaking it down, you say, okay, Tatum and Bird matchup, like the advantage is Bird, but Tatum's a good defender and he's long and he's good, and it's Bird's advantage, but it's not the widest advantage of the world. Like, Tatum is a really good player, and it's not a wash, but it's not that far off. And Porzingis versus McHale, well, yeah, I think McHale wins that. Horford versus Robert Parrish, yeah, okay, that's an interesting kind of matchup. Then you start getting into like, all right, well, Derek White versus, it would be DJ versus Drew Holiday, interesting matchup. Danny Ainge versus Derek White, interesting matchup. Bench would go to the 86 Celtics, I think, but because you had, Bill Walton, even at his age, was better than anything the Celtics are throwing out there. But of course, Luke Cornett plays well. Like, it's not out of left field. Like, 80s Celtics is my sweet spot. That's where I learned the game. That's where I fell in love with basketball. So I can't get there and say this Celtics team will be regarded as good as that one. But it's not that far off. I'm not laughing at the question. You know what I mean? it's fair to ask if they can get a third one in the Tatum era. Okay, well, now you get a back-to-back when they never happen, and a third one. Then we have to have the discussion. I'll finish with this. I need to see where Tatum gets and how he's regarded at the end of his career. Bird was just a completely different player. Bird is I say it like he's in the Hall of Fame's Hall of Fame, right? If you just took the Hall of Fame players and created a separate Hall of Fame, he'd be in that one too. And Tatum is a Hall of Famer. He's absolutely a Hall of Famer, but he's not that level Hall of Famer. He's not one of the 5 best players ever to play the game. And that impacts my analysis because Bird was so special. But by the end of his career, we'll see what he's done and where he stacks up. So, yeah, I'll stop repeating myself. What about the future of this team? What about Jayson Tatum? What about relying on Jayson Tatum a whole lot more than they do now as the team moves forward? We'll talk about that when I come back. So many buttons to press. I just forgot which one to press. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out Locked On NBA, Locked On NBA Game Night. I'm there on Fridays with Jake Madison. Friday nights or Friday during the day covering Thursday night's game. So make sure you're subscribed to that. Plus, there's a Locked On NBA in the afternoons covering the biggest stories in the league. So subscribe wherever you got Locked On Celtics. Spencer says, I feel like Tatum possibly has a real MVP window opening in the next year or two. This stretch, he's been playing some of his best basketball. He's only 27 this year. He should be getting into his prime. Money may be a little tight right now. Maybe trying to hold on to a core of guys for a starting 5, maybe a 6 man, and rely on him more in the future. What do you think about that? Well, I think a lot of this depends on, obviously, where does everybody on the team want to be? And I don't want to have the Jaylen Brown conversation now, because I do think the Celtics want to keep Jaylen Brown. I do think he wants to stay here, but also I do understand that he has big goals, big dreams, off the court stuff, and there may come a time where he decides that his time in Boston has just come to a natural end and he may want to move on. And that may be where the Celtics get their quote unquote savings from. And you move him and maybe you get back some younger players. You start to transition into younger players for the future, maybe a win now guy in the middle of it, some picks, however you go. I only bring that up just because the future of the Celtics is not murky, but maybe it is murky. Oh, it is murky. Like this year, and I don't like focusing on future stuff in the midst of a championship run, but the reality is this summer, there's a strong potential for a major change. I think the biggest change will be Jrue Holiday. Makes the most sense, but maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they want to go in a different direction. But somebody's going to have to go. The continuity, all that stuff's going to have to change. And that Holiday might be the easiest move. They've rewarded him with a big contract. I think everybody's aware of how things are going. Maybe he moves. You elevate Peyton Pritchard. You hope that Jordan Walsh or Baylor Shireman or somebody that maybe you can sign somebody can elevate and you can have a better bench. But even if it's just Holiday that goes, you are going to rely on Jayson Tatum a lot more. And then after that, you may have to make another move. And is it going to be Porzingis? Is it going to be Jaylen Brown? Jaylen is 28. He's going to be, 30's around the corner for him. And all I'm saying, and this is just me talking, I am not saying this as like speculation, like informed speculation or anything like that. I am just saying, in my assessment of who might feel like what, I feel like Jayson Tatum sees the future very Paul Pierce-like in whatever he's wanted in the past. Unless there's a team that's in St. Louis, he sees his future here as a Celtic. And I think he sees that when he talked about chasing Larry Bird, I think he means it. I think his best case to becoming a true NBA legend is to have all of the records for one team. Like when you open up the Celtics record books and you're like, damn, Jayson Tatum, number 1 scorer, number 3 rebounder, number whatever assist guy, like that type of stuff, like all of these records, most 50-point games, most 40-point games. If you can get that kind of stuff, like you can look at the big, wow. When you can compile that kind of resume, then I think Tatum sees that and likes that. Jaylen may want to say, hey, I want to see what it's like. I want to try leading a team. I want to try being the number 1 guy. Maybe he wants to go home and do stuff at home in Atlanta. Maybe he wants to go somewhere else. Maybe whatever. Maybe he wants to stay. Also, let me just put that out there. Maybe he does want to stay forever and ever, and that would be fine. That's good. I'm very happy to have Jaylen Brown here. I am not trying to trade him. I am just trying to guess as to what the possibilities are. And I can see a scenario where Jaylen might say, hey, my journey, he's very much into the journey. My journey, like I'm saying that Jaylen may make this decision. That my journey is I want it to go here. I want this to be my next step. And no animosity. I'm not getting out of here because I hate it. I just want to take a different step in my life. Jaylen is very future journey oriented. So I'm just saying I can see that being a possibility. All right. My preference would be to have Jaylen Brown stay. I like Jaylen Brown. I think he's a good dude. I think he's great for the city. I think he's got great ideas. I think he's doing things his way. And I really do appreciate the fact that he does that. Let me be clear that I'm not trying to trade Jaylen Brown. My preference would be for him to stay. I'm just saying that. So back to like the question here, however this goes, they are going to need Jayson Tatum to be more of, just more. And I do agree that his real MVP window is opening now. The way we've seen him play over the past couple of weeks, like going before the All-Star break, that Tatum, I think, has a real chance at having an MVP run, a legitimate MVP run. If his passing, if his floor vision, if his manipulation of the game is as good as it has been in recent weeks, if that's something that is a new thing that continues, then yeah, him being at the top of the MVP race, 1, 2, 3, very possible, especially as guys leave and people say, oh, wow, Tatum was always capable of more, then he gets a little bit of the narrative thing. If the Celtics win a championship in that stretch, then he, really, bolsters his case. If they are a top seed, if they remain a top seed, Holiday goes, let's just say Porzingis goes, and the Celtics are still 1, 2, 3, then people go, oh, okay, this has been Tatum the whole time with Jaylen Brown, but mostly, it has been. Tatum's the MVP candidate. I'm sorry. So that's, yeah, they're definitely going to have to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see. And finally, since we're on the Jaylen Brown topic, Andrew says, unfair question. In 15 years, will Jaylen Brown or Klay Thompson be considered the better player? It is an unfair question because I don't know what the answer is on that. Klay Thompson, obviously a better shooter, obviously a phenomenal shooter. And in his prime, a good defender, right? Like he played both ends. Jaylen at his absolute peak, not the shooter, but a much better driver, attacker, mid-range guy, also really good defender. So they play such different styles. I feel like just because like right now, there's still the Warriors championship glory that, Klay Thompson still has some of that. Splash Brothers, him and Steph Curry, redefining the league with their shooting. I think right now Klay would be in the lead overall, but Klay's career is now on the downslope. Jaylen has a finals MVP. He's on the upslope. If they win again, then that's 2 championships. If they win a third one somewhere along the way, now, he's in that same championship sphere as Klay Thompson. I think it will be, it's going to be close. It's going to be close either way. I don't know. This is a tough question. It is. I've seen this question now. I've been chewing on this for like a couple of hours. I don't know which way to go. I think Jaylen is the more complete player, but that doesn't necessarily make him the better overall player. But because again, Klay could defend, Jaylen can defend, but like Klay wasn't just a shooter; he was more than that. He didn't dribble a whole lot, but he didn't have to. But Jaylen has a chance right now to in 15 years to kind of stake his claim. But 15 years from now, this could be a really good like bar argument. 2 completely different styles of players. So I don't know which way to go. Right now, I'm going to say it's Klay by a hair. But Jaylen, it might end up being Jaylen. And there might be some national people who hear me say that and be like, well, there's some Celtics bias there because it's obviously Klay. I don't know. All right. Mailbag questions, by the way, come in at johnkaralis.com/mailbag, johnkaralis.com/mailbag to submit your questions. That's the only way I get them. So go ahead and submit those. I will get to them whenever I can. So please send those in. Celtics play in Toronto on Tuesday night, in Detroit on Wednesday night. And then on Thursday, I'll try to get Tom Westerholm back here. A little under the weather, so he couldn't make it today. So Tom should be back then. Full week, post game Friday at the Garden. Celtics Cavs. Maybe I'll get Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs to pop onto the show after that. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Plenty of podcasts, lots of fun podcasts here. So go ahead and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can get that dropped directly to your favorite podcasting app. We're on all of them. You can get onto the YouTube page, watch me there, and get into the comment section, share your comments, share your thoughts, and then share the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here in the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.